I want to tell you guys a story tonight. And if you haven't met me before, I want you to write down my name. It's Diane, with one N, Hochman, Hochman. And I'm giving you my name not for you to call me up, unless you were invited here by me, but because I want you to do some research on me. I want you to look me up. Ask the person that invited you about me. I have been a very, very, very blessed woman over the last almost 9 years. And I've told the story many times of how I accidentally got into network marketing. It was all a fluke. I wanted to lose weight, and my cousin sold me some products. It was with a network marketing company. I went down to a meeting, and this whole world lit up to me, and how I started in business and all this other stuff. And I've told it many times. Ask the person that invited you. They can send you over to my blog. You can hear the story. You can see the old fat pictures, the new pictures. You can see the living proof that I have dramatically changed my life. I lost 120 pounds. I paid off $40,000 in credit card debt. I had a friend ask me just the other day, my daughters are 12 and 15, and they said, do you have any money saved up for college? And I said, well, sure I do, and my house is almost paid off. And they looked at me like, whoa. And I'm 41. And when you consider that not very long ago I was deep, deep, deep in debt, and really my health was a mess and everything was a mess, I'd say I'm living proof of something. We're not sure what it is. But I'm going to talk to you a little bit tonight about a different journey, not the business journey, not how I learned how to advertise, and not how I learned all this stuff on the internet and how to do all this stuff. And if you look me up, you'll see. And by the way, I do teach all of that stuff, sharing their knowledge about how to maneuver around the net. So if you're somebody that needs that type of thing, also ask about that. But I want to talk to you tonight about the journey that I think a lot of people miss out on, and they don't even realize that it's calling out to them. Before I ever found network marketing, home business, and all that type of stuff, I had a series of unusual experiences happen to me. And I was having a discussion with a person who's had some similar experiences, and I said it was almost like these messages were screaming at me. The first thing that happened to me is I was down at the library. We were broke. We had no money. I couldn't go buy books, and I certainly couldn't go to the movies. And I used to go to the library to borrow videotapes. They were videotapes, not DVDs back then. And I happened to be walking past the shelf where they had the audio books. And an audio set, it was like it jumped off the shelf at me, and it was called Real Magic. And it was by a gentleman named Wayne Dyer. A lot of you guys know who Dr. Wayne Dyer is. He's all over PBS now. He's very, very well known. Back then, he wasn't as well known, and yes, he was a best-selling author, but he wasn't all over television, and he certainly wasn't, as prominent as we know him to be today. And I, for whatever reason, and I don't know why to this day, I picked up that two tape set, cassette tape, and I took it out with my bunch of videotapes that I used to use to melt my mind. I was miserable. I'd sit on the couch. I'd eat a half-gallon of ice cream and watch videos, fall asleep. That was my life. And I listened, and something happened to me that day. And I don't know exactly what it was, but the message turned me on. And it was about listening to yourself and the real magic being inside of you. And several months later, I happened to open up the newspaper. I'm not an avid newspaper reader, but I would read it on certain days, the store ads and stuff. And there was a picture of Dr. Dyer, and it said, Wayne Dyer is going to be speaking in Vernon, Connecticut, which is across the river from me. Some hotel. It was like a Quality Inn or something. It was not a fancy place. And the tickets were $25. And I thought, wow. And I made arrangements for the kids so that I could go. And I went, and I want you to hear this, by myself. Because I had nobody else in my life that would understand what this was, and I had a choice. I could stay home, or I could go by myself, and I did. It was a magical day, and I heard these messages again. And from that time on, it seemed that book after book, tape after tape, kept landing in my life. The first personal development, like business development tape I ever heard was Dr. Stephen Covey. And that was the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And that changed my outlook on life. Now, some of you guys are going, yeah, so I came to hear about making money. I heard there's a deal here. Get to the point. I'm going to. But I asked you when we started, can you be present with me for a half an hour so that I could share with you what happened to me? I'm hoping that the story I told you at the beginning of the call gives me the credibility to make you go, maybe I should listen for a few minutes to this girl. I've done what everybody wants to do. Took care of my health, took care of my wealth. Oh, that sounds so business opportunity, health and wealth, prosperity. Well, I got it. And I have a feeling that there's a couple of you that are already starting to feel kindred to me because you've had the same experience. Different things started calling out to you, and you started hearing messages, and you started meeting people that spoke somehow into your heart. So the story goes that I got real into personal development, and I went through every book and tape that and by the way, I'm not a good reader, so for those of you, and I am going to read to you in a minute, I'm going to talk to you about a book that, quite frankly, is really hard to read, and there's a whole lot of them in this genre that are hard to read. And as much as I consider myself to be a pretty smart girl, most of you guys know I'm a pretty smart chick, I'm not the best reader. And in fact, a lot of times when people talk about this stuff, I used to feel really stupid. So I turned to tapes, and I'm up late, and I see, of course, the Tony Robbins Personal Power 2 tape set. It's only $249. I believe it was 5 payments of $49. Can't remember. And I ordered it. Behind my husband's back, we were deep in debt, and I ordered a $250 tape. And when it came, I quickly hid it in the trunk of my car, under bags and stuff. And every night, I would make an excuse, because I was still working full-time at the time. I would make an excuse to, quote-unquote, go shopping so that I could listen to a half of a Tony Robbins tape. Because I needed to change my life so bad. I literally went to seminars by myself, went and listened to tapes by myself, hid them in my car so that nobody would know. Because where I come from, reading books and listening to stuff like this is weird. But one by one, the stuff jumped at me and screamed at me and called to me like a siren calls to a sailor. And I started learning about things like your subconscious mind and using anchors to retrain yourself. And gosh, I learned a lot of stuff. And I started to hear a lot of sayings and all that stuff. You ever hear this one? Write it down. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Pretty famous saying. You've probably heard it, especially if you've been in this industry. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. See, I was a freak. Everybody else thinks, well, I guess I'm not ready. All I ever wanted to know was, how do I get ready? How do I get ready? because I know there's teachers for me. I got to get ready so they can show up. And they did, one by one, person by person, little teachers, big teachers, and P.S. and by the way, sometimes your most important teachers are the people that drive you crazy, the people that do you wrong, and the people that hurt you. And the best teacher of all is what I like to think of as a divine master, that person that pushes your buttons so bad that somehow, some way, you got to beat them, you got to show them, you got to make good, and the next thing you know, you do. So let's get into the meat of the call. This is what was happening to me, and then in 1999, I stumbled into network marketing. That December 1st, I'll never forget it, 1999, Tony Robbins came to Hartford. I went, again, by myself to the big Civic Center. I felt like such a moron. Everybody came in teams. All the people that worked together, they were there with their buddies from work, and I paid extra to go to the breakfast, in the morning, to the higher level thing, and I was sitting down closer. In fact, I shook Tony Robbins' hands and all that stuff. But I was like all alone. And he does all these exercises, and you got to give each other back rubs and all this other stuff, and everybody's giggling with their friends. And there I was, this scared little fat dumpy girl who had lost, 20 pounds by then, with her MLM little recruiting sizzle cards in her pocketbook, putting them all around the arena like an idiot, believing I was going to recruit everybody at the Tony Robbins seminar. Why did I go? Because I believed when the student is ready, the teacher will show up, and if something was there to help me get ready, I had to get ready. I don't know why, but I always knew that there was something more for me. And I have a funny feeling that the bulk of you on the phone, with the exception of a couple that came tonight to hear about how to make some money, which you certainly can do here because I make a lot of money, kids, and so do a lot of other people. But that's a topic for another night. Tonight we're talking about this journey. Most of you, the reason why you keep going is because you know, my girlfriend's in Wisconsin, that there's something more for you. Right now in this community, we're doing something very special. We've always had a sampler set. We have all these free calls, and we have free articles and different things we give away, free audios. You can go over to our site, and there's reports and all kinds of great stuff. So there's always free here. Free, free, free. You want to come, you want to hang out, you don't want to buy nothing, you don't want to pay nothing, you just want to be here. If I can enrich you, if I can serve you, maybe you're broke like I was, and I'm the voice for you. God bless you. Be here. Wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense, Diane. Isn't the object to make money? Not if you're operating via the science of getting rich. Make money later. Come in service. So I want to read you. I'm in the first chapter. And when I saw this and I highlighted it, I realized, well, no wonder why. Those books and tapes were screaming at me and just jumping off the shelf at me. It says, the object of all life is development. Everything that lives has an inalienable right to all the development it is capable of attaining. Guys, I want you to think about this, and I want you to break it back down, just to think about plants and trees. Recently I was watching a movie called I Am Legend, Will Smith. I don't know if you guys have seen it, and there's some terrible virus that breaks out in New York City, and the island has to be evacuated, and those that are left, most everybody dies, and he's a survivor. And you see how within a very short period of time, all the trees overgrow, and up through the cracks in the pavement of the concrete jungle of New York City, all the plants grow. Because the object of all life is development. Plants create seeds to develop more. Humans create seeds and eggs to develop more. Everything continues to grow and live and become bigger. But the human beings have this special gift of conscious thought and the special gift of being able to separate their minds from the actual circumstances that allows them to develop at an exponential rate. Let me say it again. It sounded kind of fancy. A dog can't imagine anything other than what's happening then. He's being fed. Steve McConnell has some two little puppies, so I'm thinking about them right now. They know when they're being walked. They know when they're pooping. They know when they're sleeping. They know when they're eating. Human beings have the faculty of imagination. And I'm going to come back to that in a minute. So I want you to write down the object of all life is development. It's not to make a quick buck. It's not to watch TV. And in fact, when you are not developing, you're breaking the rules. Some yucky stuff comes your way, came my way. I broke the rules. I got really fat, really sick, and really broke. When I went back to developing and growing, magic happened. In the next page, this is important. It says there's nothing wrong in wanting to get rich. It's an interesting thought because a lot of people have a problem with it. My whole family had a problem with it. There was something wrong with me. I wanted to get rich. I actually believed I had the right to be rich. I believed I was going to be rich. I knew I was going to be rich. They thought I was nuts. So let's get down to this. It says here, desire is possibility seeking expression or function seeking performance. What in the world does that mean, Diane? I've read the book a lot of times, and I got to tell you, I didn't get it until I had a little help. So don't think I'm such a genius. I had help. When the student is ready, the teachers will appear. And didn't I say that? When you have a desire, I have a desire to meet that woman. I have a desire to meet that man. I have a desire for a new home. I have a desire to be wealthy. I have a desire for love. That's the possibility inside of you seeking expression. I was a fat little girl. I was a fat teenager. I was a fat young woman. But I had a desire to be healthy and thin. That desire was the possibility of my being healthy, seeking expression. When you have a desire to earn an additional $5,000 a month, that is possibility because inside of you, in your highest being, you know it's possible. You just can't see how to do it yet. But the fact that you have the desire tells you something. And here's why. The dog doesn't have the desire. The human does. And I believe that each of us has a design, and each of ours is uniquely different. It was given to us by the designer himself. And then the question becomes, do you doubt when you feel that desire rise in you Do you doubt that that was placed there for you because you have the ability to become, to earn, to gain whatever it is you want? Because if you spit on your own desire, if you spit on the voice that's making you listen to tapes in your car and hide them, what are you saying? It says below this, an individual's highest happiness is found in the bestowal of benefits on those he loves. Love finds its most natural and spontaneous expression in giving. The person who has nothing to give cannot fill his place as a husband, father, mother, wife, citizen, or as a human being. And that goes back to the page before, which says there is nothing wrong in wanting to get rich. Because you're wanting, my wanting, back then, goofy little fat girl dreaming and believing, that desire, who knew, was so that someday I could stand in front of you on this very evening and express my love through the power I have, and I need my love for you, even those of you I don't know. Because my journey has given me a power of conviction that when I stand before you, I know that if you have the desire, that's part of your design, given to you by the designer, and I know that it's possible. I know that you can. And maybe hearing me say that to you tonight is more important than anything. And maybe hearing me express my love and giving you that gift, because if I could lose that weight, if I could pay that debt, $40,000, guys, if I could build that big bank account, if I could go stay in suites and feed my daughters ice cream first, we don't do that all the time because we're a little health conscious, but if I could drive new cars, if I could wear big rings, not for the sake of the material item, but for the sake of expression of love. And if I could take 2 CDs and put them into your hands and you could hear them and they would make you feel better in knowing that your mess is your message, that there is a code, you can figure it out, and the voices that you hear and these little messages are nothing more than breadcrumbs showing you the trail. Stepping stones. A couple more little things I want to read to you and we'll wrap it up. This is a great book, man, guys. This is a great book. But, man, when I try to read this by myself, I don't know, my head spins. Thought is the only power which can produce tangible riches from the formless substance. Thought is the only power which can produce tangible riches, tangible, touchable, that which you can hold in your hand, money, cash, from the formless substance, the ethers, the heavens. Says thought is the only thing that can do it. Okay, here's where it gets funky. Here's why you need to come study with us here. Because if I don't convince you that it's possible to crack this code, I said to one of my best friends on the phone today, Stephen McConnell, I said to him, we're working on a new project, by the way, but we're not telling what it is. I said to him, Steve, I always knew. And then I said to him, and Steve, I always knew you could too. And there's a whole bunch of you here. I can feel the desire in you. And sometimes You look in the mirror and you can't see the beautiful thing that you are. You just see this ugly thing that was marred because when you were 22, you got in trouble and you got arrested because you blew up a mailbox and they threw you in jail and you got in trouble or whatever, or you got divorced and your whole family hates you because you did, or I don't know what. Okay, here it is. Every thought of form held in thinking substance causes the creation of that form, but always, or at least generally, along lines of growth and action already established. This is hard to read stuff, man. Guys, it's every thought, okay, if you hold it long enough, will cause what you think about to come to fruition along the lines of growth and action already established. It's kind of like you got a steam train going. It's going down the road. You ever notice that when you're gaining weight, you're gaining weight and gaining weight, and it goes faster and faster and faster for those of you that have that issue in your life, and it seems like it's like this spiraling, horrible thing, and it's really hard to stop it? It's because it's a locomotion train, man. It's going. You ever notice that when you're in debt, you got $5,000, $7,000, $9,000, $12,000. The car breaks down. Oh, gosh, we got to put another $1,000 in. Okay, now we're at our limit. Now what? It's because you have a thought, and you think about the thought because you lay in bed at night, and you think, the credit cards, the credit cards, the credit cards, the credit cards, the credit cards. So what expands and comes to fruition? It causes the creation of that form. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? But here's what's cool. If it goes that way, in the negative way, is it possible to control our minds long enough to make it go the other way? And if the steam train can go down the hill, can it go up the hill? I did it. Let me read you one or two more. We'll wrap it up. A person's way of doing things is the direct result of the way he thinks about things. I don't know how to set my thing up. I don't know how to do this. I really need you to get me started. I don't know. A person's way of doing things is the direct result of the way he thinks about things. Guys, this book's 100 years old. They make movies about it. It's not just some quirky thing that just showed up in Barnes & Noble a week ago. Okay, Bob Proctor teaches on this. The big boys teach on this. So if a person's way of doing things is the direct result of the way he thinks about things, can you change the way you think about things, and that would change the way that you do things, and would your direct results change? Hey, wait a minute. Let's do that again. Can I change the way I think about things? See, you guys are busy trying to do. You got to do. But you see, if your thinking is wrong and you're acting based upon the wrong thought, you have the wrong action that sets you up for failure. That's why you're laboring so hard and struggling and in strife. See, guys, I was always after life of ease and flow. I saw people around me. We're talking about one today, This guy just like toodles around. He goes surfing. He's got long hair. He wears ripped jeans. He makes millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars doing whatever the heck he wants. That's what I wanted, life of ease and flow. Kristen's laughing. I'm always going on another vacation. Kristen, I'll be away for a few more days. Kristen, I'll be away for a few more days. Guys, if you're thinking properly and you need help with your thinking, you can't sit in a corner in a closet with the light on by yourself, read Think and Grow Rich, and hope your thinking will change. It doesn't work that way. It's the culmination of minds working together. But if you think properly, your actions change and your results change. It's really that simple. But here's the big problem, and this is where we wrap it up and we're done. This blew me away. There is no labor from which most people shrink as they do from that of sustained and consecutive thought. It is the hardest work in the world. Guys, if there's 2% of people out there that actually think, truly think, it's a lot. The reason why, and they tend to be kind of freaky people, Einsteins, kind of freaky people. Why do so few people think? Because it's the hardest labor that exists anywhere. It's harder than digging ditches. It's harder than laying concrete. It's harder than construction. Then there's another group of people that want to think. I tend to believe those are the types that we attract here, which turns me on to no end, because that's all I wanted. I knew that I could change my life if I could think properly. Jim Rohn says it's the set of your sail that determines your success. You see, it wasn't working harder on the boat. It's just the way the sail was set. Are you catching the wind? You'd find it silly to believe that my weight loss was fairly easy. After all those years of struggle and strife and wackadoo diets, when I shifted my thinking and I learned some of this stuff, I took the weight off, and I have had no problem with regaining it. You'd be floored to realize that getting rid of the debt, yes, we had to cut back and all that stuff, and we had to eliminate things, and we got rid of cable TV and did what we had to do. But it was pretty easy. It was gone like poof. And now those are no longer issues in my world. There is no labor from which most people shrink as they do from that of sustained and consecutive thought. It is the hardest work in the world. And it says, then we must grasp the truth that every thought held in this substance becomes a form, and that a person can impress his thoughts upon it so as to cause them to take form and become visible things. Okay, guys, what they're saying is if you can learn to hold your thought long enough, consistently enough, you can make what you want happen. Hard to believe, but true. And here's the final line of the call. When we realize this, when we know we have this power, we lose all doubt and fear because we know we can create what we want to create. Can you imagine a life without doubt and fear? You can goof off a little bit because when you go back and you focus again because you've trained your mind, you can create whatever you desire. And I will say to all of you, to your faces via the phone, this place will never be the biggest, hottest program on the internet. We're never going to have the slickest, biggest, fastest money-making deal in the history of the, whatever. Because I just told you that sustained thinking is the hardest work on the face of the earth. Because what I'm doing is I'm asking, who on the line has the desire in their heart and their soul? And who on the line can whip out $14.95? I had a guy today called. He might be on the line tonight. Called twice. I heard your call. I looked at all this stuff. It's really good, but I have a lot of questions. I need to know more about what you do. It's $14.95. Just go buy it and watch it. Send it back if you're not happy. It's guaranteed. I have questions. What are the questions? They're about doubt. They're about, I'm not sure, I'm not sure, I'm not sure, I'm not sure, I'm not sure. Well, that's taking thought and turning it into form, turning it into reality. See, when somebody said, Tony Robbins is in town, I went, okay, I'll go. Somebody said, come down to the meeting. I said, okay, I'll go. Somebody said, get on a plane and fly to this thing because you're going to learn this, this, and that. I said, okay, I'll go. 3 years ago, somebody said, come to Boston. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be at some seminar. Come meet me and talk to me. And we started talking about my good friend and partner, Joe Schroeder, and I called him up, and we talked, and the rest is history. Because I said, I'll go. You, my friends, have all the power. It was never a guru. It's not Joe Schroeder. It's not Diane Hochman. It's not any of the other people you followed that you're hoping will care for you and provide for you. It's you. It was me that changed. It wasn't Nutrisystem who I gave my money to. It wasn't Weight Watchers who I gave my money to. It wasn't the Diet Center who I gave my money to. It wasn't QVC who I bought all my exercise equipment from. It wasn't Tony Little who sold me the Gazelle. It was me. And it's you. And your desire is possibility seeking expression or function seeking performance. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be rich, thin, beautiful, abundant, glorious, and free. Have a great night.